जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा। कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा। जय राधा दामोदर राधा दामोदर राधे। जय निताय गौरंग जय निताय गौरंग। निताय गौरंग जय निताय गौरंग। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद् हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto number 2, chapter number 2, The Lord in the Heart, text number 6. Evam svachitte swata eva siddha. Evam svachitte swata eva siddha. Atma priyortho Bhagavan Anantah. Atma priyorto Bhagavan Anantah. Tam nirvrito niyatarto bhajeta. Tam nivrito niyatarto bhajeta. Samsara hetu paramaha cha yatra. Samsara hetu paramascha yatra. Evam svachitte swata eva siddha. Atma priyorto Bhagavan Anantah. Tam nivrito niyatarto bhajeta. Samsara hetu paramascha yatra. Evam svachitte swata eva siddha. Atma priyorto Bhagavan Anantah. Tam nirvrito niyatarto bhajeta. Samsara hetu paramascha yatra. Evam svachitte swata eva siddha. Atma priyorto Bhagavan Anantah. Tam nirvrito niyatarto bhajeta. Samsara hetu paramascha yatra. Evam svachitte swata eva siddha. Atma priyorto Bhagavan Anantah. Tam nirvrito niyatarto bhajeta. Samsara hetu paramascha yatra. Evam svachitte swata eva siddha. Atma priyorto Bhagavan Anantah. Tam nirvrito niyatarto bhajeta. Samsara hetu paramascha yatra. Word to word meaning. Evam, thus, swachitte, in one's own heart. Swataha, by his omnipotency. Eva, certainly. Siddhaha, fully represented. Atma, the super soul. Priyaha, very dear. Arthaha, substance. Bhagavan, the supreme personality of Godhead. Anantaha, the eternal unlimited. Tam, unto him. Nirvrittaha, being detached from the world. Niyata, permanent. Arthaha, the supreme gain. Bhajeta, one must worship. Samsara hetu, the cause of the conditioned state of existence. Uparamaha, cessation. Cha, certainly. Yatra, in which. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thus being fixed, one must render service unto the super soul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency. Because he is the almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited, he is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him one can end the cause of the conditioned state of existence. Please repeat this translation. Thus being fixed, one must render service unto the super soul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency. Because he is the almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited, he is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him, one can end the cause of the conditioned state of existence. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18.61, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is the all-pervading, omnipresent Super Soul. Therefore, one who is a yogi can worship only him, because he is the substance and not illusion. Every living creature is engaging in the service of something else. A living being's constitutional position is to render service, but in the atmosphere of Maya or illusion, or the conditional state of existence, the conditioned soul seeks the service of illusion. A conditioned soul works in the service of his temporary body, bodily relatives like the wife and children and the necessary paraphernalia for maintaining the body and bodily relations, such as the house, land, wealth, society, and country, but he does not know that all such renderings of service are totally illusory. As we have discussed many times before, this material world is itself an illusion, like a mirage in the desert. In the desert, there is an illusion of water, and the foolish animals become entrapped by such an illusion and run after water in the desert, although there is no water at all. But because there is no water in the desert, one does not conclude that there is no water at all. The intelligent person knows well that there is certainly water in the seas and oceans, but such vast reservoirs of water are far, far away from the desert. One should therefore search for water in the vicinity of seas and oceans and not in the desert. Every one of us is searching after real happiness in life, namely eternal life, eternal or unlimited knowledge and unending blissful life. But foolish people who have no knowledge of the substance search after the reality of life in the illusion. This material body does not endure eternally, and everything in relation with this temporary body, such as the wife, children, society, and country, also changes along with the change of body. This is called samsara, or repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease. We would like to find a solution for all these problems of life, but we do not know the way. Herein it is suggested that anyone who wants to make an end to these miseries of life, namely repetition of birth, death, disease, and old age, must take to this process of worshipping the Supreme Lord and not others, as it is also ultimately suggested in the Bhagavad Gita 18.65. If we at all want to end the cause of our conditioned life, we must take to the worship of Lord Sri Krishna, who is present in everyone's heart by his natural affection for all living beings, who are actually the parts and parcels of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita 18.61. The baby in the lap of his mother is naturally attached to the mother, and the mother is attached to the child. But when the child grows up and becomes overwhelmed by circumstances, he gradually becomes detached from the mother, although the mother always expects some sort of service from the grown-up child and is equally affectionate toward her child, even though the child is forgetful. Similarly, because we are all part and parcel of the Lord, The Lord is always affectionate to us, and He always tries to get us back home, back to Godhead. But we, the conditioned souls, do not care for Him and run instead after the illusory bodily connections. We must therefore extricate ourselves from all illusory connections of the world and seek reunion with the Lord, trying to render service unto Him because He is the ultimate truth. Actually, we are hankering after Him as the child seeks the mother. And to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we need not go anywhere else because the Lord is within our hearts. This does not suggest, however, that we should not go to the places of worship, namely the temples, churches, and mosques. Such holy places of worship are also occupied by the Lord because the Lord is omnipresent. For the common man, these holy places are centers of learning about the science of God. When the temples are devoid of activities, the people in general become uninterested in such places, and consequently the mass of people gradually become godless. And a godless civilization is the result. Such a hellish civilization artificially increases the conditions of life, and existence becomes intolerable for everyone. The foolish leaders of a godless civilization try to devise various plans to bring about peace and prosperity in the godless world under a patent trademark of materialism. And because such attempts are illusory only, the people elect incompetent, blind leaders one after another who are incapable of offering solutions. If we want at all to end this anomaly of a godless civilization, we must follow the principles of revealed scriptures like the Srimad-Bhagavatam and follow the instruction of a person like Sri Shukadeva Goswami who has no attraction for material gain. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these few verses in this chapter spoken by Shukadeva Goswami are actually very revolutionary in the sense that it is very difficult for common people to even conceive or think about the possibility of taking up the advice that Shukadeva Goswami has said. Shukadeva Goswami is saying that the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life, while in this world of names, he should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. When there are amply earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hand, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? Are there no torn cloths lying on the common road? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? And after saying all this, in today's verse, Shukadeva Goswami is saying, thus being fixed. How being fixed? giving up all these so-called necessities of life, thus being fixed, what should one do? One must render service unto the super soul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency. Because he is the almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited. He is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him, one can end the cause of the conditioned state of existence. So this is the formula given by Shukadeva Goswami for samsara hetu uparamaha, for the cessation of the cause of the conditioned state of existence. But this is not something which modern leaders or plan makers can accept, because their idea of welfare is to satisfy the bodily necessities of the people in this world. That is why today the progress of a nation or progress of a society is determined by what is the level of GDP of the economy. By what percentage is the GDP of this society or country growing? Last year you grew by 6%, this year you grew by 8%. That means your growth has improved, your society is progressing. Some other country, the GDP growth is 2%. My country, the GDP growth is 8%. That means I am more advanced. I am growing faster than the other nation. That is the sign of progress. But actually, if you see what is the meaning of this GDP, it is actually very interesting. GDP is nothing but the sum of the total production that a country or a state or a society does. So basically, we would have produced 100 cars, 10,000 tons of clothing, some 500 tons of food grains. So whatever we produce and consume in a year is supposed to be the GDP, gross domestic product. So all the leaders, all the plan makers, their goal is you increase this production more and people will be happy, because more and more resources are available for people to satisfy their needs. But first of all, this measure itself is flawed. I'll give you an example. Let us say there is one beautiful forest. It has got so much wonderful fruits, so many wonderful trees, and there is so much air, and it is situated on a wonderful hill. And then you give an industry a mining license. They go to that hill, they cut down all the forests, they start digging and mining, and they produce, let us say, aluminum. A lot of aluminum comes out. So next year, what is happening? Because so much of aluminum is produced, this is added to the GDP of the country. And then people say, my GDP has grown up by so much. But actually what has happened? We have actually destroyed the entire natural resources of the country. And what is happening because of that? People are getting displaced. There is not sufficient food. There is not sufficient oxygen. Actually, the condition of life of people is becoming more and more pitiable. It is becoming more and more worse, because actually when you are focusing on increasing the GDP, you are destroying the natural resources. Shri Shri Krishna Rukmani Satyabhama ki, Gaur Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That is why Srila Prabhupada is pointing out in the purport that such a hellish civilization artificially increases the conditions of life and existence becomes intolerable for everyone. For example, Delhi is supposed to be one of the fastest growing economies. Every year, the number of cars which is being sold there is increasing so much. Roads are being expanded. The city is being more and more urbanized. Huge buildings are coming up. The capital has expanded so much that it has extended into other states. This side it has come into Gurgaon. That side it has gone into Noida. So Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, this capital city has expanded into Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. But what has happened? Crime has increased. Pollution has increased. Quality of life has become so pathetic. Why? Because the focus has been on increasing the bodily necessities of life. During COVID, I came across two interesting instances. I'll share that also just to highlight this point. In a financial magazine, there was a cartoon. And that cartoon showed the world GDP growth. So before COVID, this graph was going up, up, up. And then during COVID, it sharply came down. And there was a person, a common man, who had studied economics, and he had quoted against that cartoon. He said, it is surprising that when people are just buying what is barely required for them, the economy is collapsing. Because during COVID, what were people doing? They were only buying what is really required. You required some food to eat, you required some place to stay, you required some water to drink, and all that was being provided to everyone. But what was happening? There was an economic collapse. Why? Because all the unwanted things, which is actually not really essential, people were not buying, and that was resulting in this economic collapsing. So, what are all these modern leaders doing? They are only increasing the unwanted things in our life, increasing the anarthas. Anartha means that which is not required. So, GDP growth means how to increase the anarthas. How all the things which are not really required for a person to be happy, how do we introduce that in people's life? Create more theaters, create more pubs, create more cars, create more luxury malls, make people more attracted to the opposite sex, have more slaughterhouses, and then your name will come. Top growing economy in the world. And this idea was given by some brilliant economist. And they will be given Nobel Prize. How they helped this economy to grow very fast. But what is the result? That unnecessarily unwanted things are increasing. Even when people want to create a welfare state. We are in the state of Tamil Nadu, and there is one instance which happened during COVID in Tamil Nadu. So our state is very famous as a welfare state. Why is it famous as a welfare state? Because here the government provides all necessities for the people. Education, yes, if you want, education is provided free. There are wonderful health facilities provided free of cost. So we have some of the best government hospitals, very good doctors, insurance is provided, best medical equipment is there. And even if you want to get your daughter married, the government gives some allowance for some amount of gold. And in addition to that, ration is given every month, this much quality of rice, this much quantity of dal, this much quantity of sugar, everything is provided. And in addition to that, TV is given, computer is given, laptop is given, and some cash also is given. So wonderful welfare state, all necessities are provided. But then, people were complaining that, that you have given all these facilities, and by giving these facilities, what is happening to these people? Are they content? Are they happy? No. They are not even coming to work. These people are not even coming for work, and what they are doing is, morning itself, they are going to the liquor shop, government liquor shop, drinking liquor, and whole day they are simply sitting there, not even coming for work. And therefore, you are not having enough people to do the work. And the source of the government's revenue is what? It is this liquor only. Because some minimum wages are being paid to these people, they are not working. And what they are doing with this money? They are spending it on liquor. And the revenue from this, the government is earning, and it is using for these welfare activities. And what are all these people who are drinking doing? They are creating a hellish life for everyone. When we started Akshay Patra in these breakfast program in these schools, we had gone there. So we were inquisitive and we asked, see, the government is giving everything. Grains are provided, free education is given, everybody is given some job or the other. Then why should children come to school on an empty stomach? What is the necessity of this breakfast program? And then the principal revealed, she said, many of the students who are coming to our school, they are coming from single parent households. Single parent means either only the mother is taking care of the child, because the father, he has married, he has given birth to the child, but he is not interested in taking care of his family. He's simply interested in drinking. And then what is happening? The mother is having to go to work early in the morning. She is unable to cook breakfast for the children. This is happening, and therefore the child is coming in an empty stomach to the school. So, even by providing all these welfare necessities, society is not happy. It is only creating disturbance. And during COVID, it was seen that because all these liquor shops were closed down, there was one very interesting instance happened. So all these people, every day they were used to go in the morning itself to these liquor shops and drink. Now in COVID, liquor shops are not there. So what these people started doing, that this government, it was distributing these sanitizers. You remember during COVID, everywhere free sanitizers were being distributed. Now these people, they started drinking those sanitizers. This is a real fact, I'm not joking. These people were drinking sanitizers because these sanitizers contained alcohol. These people were so addicted to drinking, they started drinking these sanitizers and many of them died. This was a reality. So government had to be careful in terms of issuing the sanitizers. They created a spot, you come, you sanitize your hands and you go. So this is the result which is being achieved when people do not follow the instructions of Shukadeva Goswami and they simply focus on increasing the bodily necessities of life. So this samsara, the nature of this material world is such that if we only focus on increasing or maintaining our body without understanding what is the real necessity, what is the source of real happiness, if we do not understand, then these are the kind of results which will become very common. There will be broken families, there will be increased suicides, there will be increased conflict between nations, artificial scarcity. All these are the result of a godless civilization. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami is saying that if you want to put an end to samsara, the repeated suffering process of birth, disease, old age and death, then you have to meditate on the super soul within the heart. And to meditate on the super soul within the heart, you have to go to a lonely place. A place which is where all these distractions are not there. You have to go to such a place. But then, practically, this is not possible in this age. If you see, this instruction given by Shukadeva Goswami was given to Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj was in a state of mind where he had already renounced his kingdom. He was already questioning that, I'm going to leave my body in 7 days. So what is it that I'm supposed to do? What is a man who is supposed to die? What is his ultimate duty? What is he supposed to do? So Parikshit Maharaj was in that state of mind. But today people are in no mood to think about death, what happens after life. Today's society is filled with ajamilas, where people are only interested in satisfying their senses. So therefore, it is very important for spiritual leaders to come out with ways and means by which the neophyte or the ordinary class of person, they also somehow or the other become attracted to spiritual life. Therefore, all acharyas, Prabhupada points out, beginning from Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, the 6 Goswamis, they were not only writing literature, they were not only preaching the methods of God realization, but they were also engaging people in building huge temples. I remember my parents and grandmother also saying that during their times, the only source of engagement for people was temple worship. In our village, every day they said that morning after waking up, people will go take bath, do their puja at home, then go to the temple. All the houses were around the temple. There was a Krishna temple and the Agraharam, or it is called, it will be situated around a temple. So every day, all the people, it is common for them before going to their school or office or work or going to work in the farm, they'll come in the morning, they'll offer obeisances in the temple, some prasadam will be given, they'll go for their work, they'll finish their duties, evening 6 o'clock, everybody is back home. Then children, they will come out, they will go to the temple, they will play there for some time, they'll come back for dinner. And in the night, there used to be some katha kalakshepa. In the temple, there used to be some bhajan, some katha kalakshepa, everybody will go. Whether you are literate or illiterate, it doesn't matter. Because somebody would speak, you only have to listen. And then they would listen and they would come back. There were no mobile phones, no TVs, no cinemas. This was the only source of engagement for people. So, therefore, no anarthas. Correct? Even though a person is interested only in taking care of his bodily necessities of life, that used to be nicely taken care. Even a servant in the house, he used to be taken care of as though he is a member of their family. No cash used to be given in the person's hand. If somebody is a servant in the house, money never used to be given to that person. But all his necessities, educating his children, some work has to be done in his home, children's marriage has to be performed, everything the master of the house used to take care. But today, when you give money in their hands in the name of a welfare state, everything you provide free, there is no engagement. You create so many artificial engagements. What is happening? This person, he does not know how to use his money. And he uses it for all these purposes which we just saw. Drinking liquor, womanizing, illicit sex. Money is spent for all these things and your GDP is growing wonderfully. But what is happening to that person? His life is getting destroyed. His family is getting destroyed. So, this sort of a godless civilization which is not centered around temples cannot give real happiness. Therefore, all the acharyas, they were focusing on having elaborate temples and big deity worship and somehow engage people in all these programs. But then people might ask, we are in a land of temples. Tamil Nadu is filled with temples. So many temples are there. But even then, people have become godless. Why is this happening? So that also Prabhupada points out in this purport that it is not merely enough if you have a temple with deities. This is not the purpose of a temple. In the, we read in the scriptures, we know that Kriteya dhyayato vishnum tretayam yajato makai dwapare paricharyayam kalautat hari kirtanat. In Satyuga, the process is meditation. Meditation on Vishnu, who is within our heart. And this is what Shukadeva Goswami is also saying here, that you meditate on the super soul who is situated in your heart by his omnipotence. You don't have to go anywhere else. That Supreme Lord who is eternal, who is unlimited, who is Ananta, he is situated within your heart. You meditate on him. Yes, that is the bona fide method, but that is not possible in Kali Yuga. This was possible in Satyuga. Kriteya dhyayato Vishnum. Tretayam yajato makai and dwapare paricharyayam. In Dwapar Yuga, the process was elaborate deity worship. Big temples you build and worship and you can realize God. But these temples, huge temples are existing today also in Kali Yuga, but the desired benefit out of this worship is not available. Because Prabhupada is pointing out here that what is the purpose of temples? He says that these places, for the common man, these holy places are centers of learning about the science of God. So these huge temples which we see in Sri Rangam, Triplicane Parthasarathi temple, all these big temples, they were not merely places of worship. They were places of learning, where the science of God was propagated to the people. Ramanujacharya went on top of the temple tower and famously he shouted Sriman Narayana. He wanted to distribute the holy names of the Lord through these temples. These were centers for distributing the holy name. So when that stopped, when these places became places where people could impose their superiority on the others by basis of a false birthright, and the preaching spirit went down, then these temples were no longer serving the purpose for which they were built in the first place. That's why Prabhupada says that when these temples are devoid of activities, the people in general become uninterested in such places, and consequently, the mass of people gradually become godless, and a godless civilization is the result. Even today, many of these places where we go, they don't allow us sometimes to do kirtan. We go for a yatra with devotees, we start doing kirtan, and suddenly one pujari comes and says, not pujari or even that officer who is appointed by the HR&C, he'll come and say, silence Swami, you're not supposed to do kirtan here, you're not supposed to talk here, maintain silence. So the people who are managing these temples, they don't know the purpose for which this temple is there. It is meant for glorification of the Lord. It is meant for propagating the glories of the Lord. It is meant for people to understand the signs of God. So when this is not there, what happens? People become disinterested. Before COVID, few years back, we had gone for a yatra to Vrindavan with some donors. And people, they were very happy by seeing our Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir. We had the Kartik festival and all. But as usual, we also take them to a lot of other places. And one person, very pious, he had come, his wife had not come. So his two children, they were studying in the US. So at the end of the yatra, he said, Swamiji, honestly, I want to tell you, I enjoyed the yatra, but I can tell you that my children would not want to come here. Because many of the places where we went, my children, if they come there, they'll be completely put off. So these are places where Krishna performed his pastimes, where the Goswamis had built their temples, but lying in such utter neglect. The people who are maintaining those temples are not maintaining it to that standard, that people are becoming disinterested in coming to such. Prabhupada said the same about even his god brothers. He said, my god brothers, they were simply interested in building temples, but they had no preaching spirit. And these places became places where they could just comfortably stay and they could maintain themselves. And when this preaching spirit was lost, then the desire of my spiritual master was not fulfilled. My spiritual master wanted that these places should be places from where extensive preaching should happen. People should know about the signs of God. They should come here. They should understand about who they are, what their relationship with the Supreme Lord is, and then they'll automatically develop detachment. So the purpose of having temples is to preach the glories of the Lord. And this is what Prabhupada wanted. That's why what Prabhupada had given us is a method of both Bhagavata Vidhi and Pancharatrika Vidhi. These temples were a center from which both these methods of worship have to happen. The process of hearing and listening, as well as the process of deity worship. Prabhupada, in all his temples, he wanted to attract people by the way materially our activities were also conducted. In terms of what kind of facilities were provided, the standards of cleanliness, the standards of administration, the standards of management, wonderful guest houses Prabhupada wanted to establish, wonderful restaurants, so that even people who are not interested in self-realization, like the Ajamilas of this world, they also should get attracted. They should come to the temple and say, oh, you get wonderful food there, a wonderful atmosphere there, so that they lose interest in going to any other shopping mall or to other places simply because the facilities here are so attractive. This was Prabhupada's desire. So here Prabhupada is pointing out that this material world is like a desert. Desert in the sense, people want happiness, but in a desert what do you get? You're searching for water, water, water. You're thinking, you're seeing the mirage, you're thinking it is water, but it is not water. So this material world is like that. Everybody is going to the shopping mall, they are going after this, after that, searching after happiness, 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 but they are not feeling happy. So in this desert-like material world, Prabhupada is giving us the ocean of happiness. These temples are supposed to be the ocean of happiness, where people come, they get introduced to the chanting of the holy name. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says is Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. It is an unlimited ocean of happiness. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted that in every town and village, my holy name should be chanted. Why? Because the chanting of these holy names, this gives us the ocean of happiness that actually we are searching in this desert-like material world. And Prabhupada, he has devised a plan by which we build elaborate temples in this desert. People come, people get attracted, and they get introduced to this ocean of unlimited happiness. Krishna points out in the Bhagavad Gita that Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. It is not possible for people to directly take to this process of Shukadeva Goswami, where he is saying, what is the use of house, what is the use of food, what is the use of a place, what is the use of a bed. It will become Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina. Immediately if you tell the Ajamilas of this world that you don't need a bed, you don't need a house, you don't need family, all this is, unnecessarily entangling you, it will not give you happiness. People cannot take up this process. But you give them all these facilities and make them practice Krishna consciousness. What will happen? Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. They experience this higher taste. And by experiencing this higher taste, they automatically lose attraction for all these anarthas or unwanted things. So the philosophy of Bhagavata is that sthane sthita shrutigata. Grihe tako vane tako sadahari pole dako. Whether you are situated in your house or whether you are going to the forest, the important principle is chant and listen to the names of the Lord. So when that is not happening in temples, when that is not a part of the plan of the so-called leaders in society, then these temples lose their utility. Even in the name of so-called material welfare, whatever the government tries to do, it is not able to achieve. Therefore, it is only our temples which Srila Prabhupada has established and in which he has given a program that people will be able to experience or attain that happiness that they are looking for. So all our temples, as Srila Prabhupada desired, should have all facilities for all categories of people to come. Prabhupada said that this ISKCON is a place, is a house for the entire world. It is a house in which the entire world can stay. Not only people like Parikshit Maharaj who are looking for self-realization, not just for that category of people. It is even for the Ajamilas and Jagai Madais of this world, who are only interested in sense gratification. When we go to our Bangalore temple, we see that, all categories of people come. They come there. I know my cousin who used to come. He said he used to come there just because he liked the food there. Just to come to the food court, Sunday he used to come to the temple. And slowly, by coming to the temple, just by coming to the food court, eating food, slowly, they also become pious. They become used to chanting the holy name. So, these are all practical examples. This is not simply some theory or philosophy. Prabhupada has shown it in practice, how this can be made possible. So, our temples are actually an example for world leaders who are sincere about bringing out material welfare. So if more and more resources can be allocated for opening such temples, which are so well managed, and where all categories of people can get engaged, they can come, they can see the atmosphere, they can participate in the festivals, elaborate festivals, they can partake of wonderful prasadam, and there can be a plethora of activities. Automatically by engaging in these activities, then what can happen? They can also come to the state where they realize that our real happiness is not in family, it is not in society, it is not in increasing these unwanted necessities of life, but in reviving our relationship with Krishna. So this is what are some of the points we understand from today's verse. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.